Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the next week ahead. Let's take a look at the satellite and lightning maps this morning. So we've got a bit of energy around the western side of Australia, especially up here further to the north into the more tropical areas, but we're seeing thunderstorms dropping further southwards as well. A few more isolated ones coming in around the western coastline. Otherwise, some large dry areas the further southwards you go. Dry for the most part in South Australia now after the showers and wet weather from overnight came through, but there could still be a few coastal showers coming in with that cooler airflow. And of course, we're seeing rain around Victoria with some heavy falls, especially in the Melbourne area or just north of Melbourne, and also around Tasmania, caught up in this next front that's coming on through. But as you go further northwards into New South Wales, it is a lot drier. You might still get a isolated downpour or thunderstorm or shower, but really we are seeing a fairly dry weather for the ACT, New South Wales and Queensland as well. Although, again, some of these downpours spilling over into the Northern Territory and certainly up around the top end there, giving Darwin a bit of a show. Some of those showers may actually drift further into Queensland. Here is the air pressure map. So high pressure is over the Great Australian Bight, hugging South Australia as we go in towards this evening. That's the reason why we've been having a drop in the temperatures. You can see the southwesterly and southerly flow going right up, even into northern parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory. That curves around as a westerly though if you're living in Brisbane and further down towards Sydney. So that's why it's not overly cold for you with those westerly winds blowing through for you. So high pressure is around, but we've still got that west coast low pressure that's been off and on for the past few weeks. We've actually seen quite a few setups like this where high pressure is south of Australia and we've got lows out on the east and for the west. So let's have a look at the forecast for Wednesday. Still seeing a thunderstorm outbreak around large parts of Western Australia. So there'll be some hit and miss downpours around. The areas with the heaviest falls are in the yellow shading, gold shading. High pressure from the Great Australian Bight drifts over into New South Wales by Wednesday afternoon. Lighter winds for you, mostly dry skies. There just might be an isolated shower probably earlier in the day around the mountains and ranges, but unfortunately Tasmania, you still got the windy westerlies blowing through with the west coast rain. It'll be a bit gusty at times as we go through Wednesday, and a few showers around Queensland, not too widespread at the lower end of the scale as far as rainfall is considered across the day. And the other feature in the southwest corner of Western Australia, also a cooler airflow ahead of the next big high, which is out around the southern part of the Indian Ocean. So Thursday, the thunderstorms in Western Australia now start to slide further into South Australia. Now we've got low pressure returning where there was high pressure. So you're going to see a bit more instability. The risk of thunderstorms and showers comes back in again. It's not quite so much around some of the coastal areas, perhaps a little further actually off the coastline or further inland up towards the Northern Territory. So that could be severe thunderstorms here moving around coming into the border of the Northern Territory in South Australia. Over in Queensland, the high that was over New South Wales moves out to sea. It's parked here over the Coral Sea and the Tasman Sea boundary. That's going to drag down these hot, humid northwesterly winds. They'll come right down into New South Wales. So most of you should see your temperatures actually going back up again. If they drop a wee bit this week, they should lift again by the time we get to Thursday. But Tasmania, the polar boundary returns. Hobart will feel the temperatures down. Lonnie will as well, as that west to southwest wind carries on, and most of the wet weather once more on the west coast. So Friday, now this is getting a little messier. We've got thunderstorms, hit and miss, rain relief for those who need it. And some of those thunderstorms could be severe as it comes in more towards the northern rivers, central southern parts of Queensland, and even further up northwards we're seeing inland thunderstorms, just like we're seeing them here in the north part of South Australia, and a few more showers and thunderstorms around Western Australia due to low pressure centred smack bang in the centre, but we've also got low pressure over here over New South Wales and drifting down into Victoria. May not be a lot of rain in Victoria with this sort of setup at this stage. Northerly winds, northeasterly winds, the mountains and ranges will actually dry out that airflow to some degree for you. And around Tasmania, your temperatures go up a little bit. Still a couple of showers around for you on Friday. Here's the weekend weather. Low pressure is basically dominating the weather map. We've got low pressure in the southeast, low pressure in the tropical half of Australia, and the next big high off the coast of Perth by quite a distance. So we're not seeing a lot of settled weather. Showers around in the blue shading at the bottom of the scale. A lot of that might just be cloud buildups, might threaten to rain, and you could get some spits of rain and maybe even some heavy showers with thunderstorms in there. But the widespread downpours will be in the green and gold yellow shading, which we see here in the southeast corner of Queensland. We also see it in the southeast corner of New South Wales, around the ACT, and further into Victoria, probably just more in the form of rain or showers coming through there. But it is unsettled with low pressure. That makes some instability. So that's why you can always get a thunderstorm when it's like this. Slightly cooler airflow remains around parts of the southern parts of Western Australia, due to the high that is off the coast there of Perth. So that will still encourage a cooler or colder airflow. Cooler is probably the right word for those of you on the southern coastline of Western Australia. Some of those showers might also come into South Australia a bit later on into Saturday, maybe Saturday night time. And you see here on Sunday what I mean, southerly winds coming straight on through. Yes, that is the polar boundary, not far from Kangaroo Island and Port Lincoln. Temperatures will be down on Sunday in South Australia, and you'll probably also start to feel it in parts of Victoria as we go through Sunday, or maybe not even till night time. Showers in the blue, and a similar story for Tassie. Low pressure is over the top here of New South Wales. It's not doing very much. It's not likely to produce a lot at this stage, but just north of it, so you've got the polar boundary south of that low and the tropical boundary just north of it, and that's where we're seeing potentially a severe thunderstorm outbreak around the southeast of Queensland, and then going all the way back to the top half of the Northern Territory and around the Kimberley. Low pressure all the way across the top of Australia in this setup. No high pressure over Australia at all, but the high southwest of Bunbury and Perth, that's the one that could be just starting to dry the skies out a wee bit further around Western Australia with that easterly wind blowing through for you. And we go to Monday of next week. We're seeing a bit of a change up in the tropical part of Australia. You know, we're starting to see that wet season kicking in a bit more. So some heavier rain here. Now the purple shading, and there's probably a bit hard for you to see, but there's also little bits of blue in the center. So on the scale, that's 100 to 150 millimeters falling from Sunday, roughly Sunday lunchtime to Monday lunchtime, around parts of probably the Katherine region and spilling over into parts of the Kimberley. We also may be seeing some severe thunderstorms coming further down into southern parts of the Northern Territory. So quite a few things going on. You know, the polar boundary coming back into here to Victoria. Mount Gambier will feel the temperature down, and then by Monday night, that comes into probably all of Tasmania again with another wintry change for you. And by Tuesday, the good news for most of you is that things are easing back down again. High pressure is still not over Australia. It's a long way south of Western Australia here on Tuesday, but it does fan out and northwards. Easterly winds, a few thunderstorms around Western Australia, more severe thunderstorms up there around the top end in Katherine, and more thunderstorms. Some of these could be severe around the eastern side of Queensland, all the way down to Brisbane. Whereas you go further down here on the eastern side for New South Wales, going into the ACT and around Victoria, showers, possibly thundery around Victoria, with the polar boundary just lingering around Hobart for the day, but it should clear away by the time you get to Tuesday night. And before I go, here is the rainfall map for the next 7 days, showing how much we expect. So you're seeing in the areas with purple, you know, these are 100 millimeters or so coming up in the next week. And if you're in the darker sort of red shading, that's 80 millimeters. So we could be seeing some pretty decent downpours here and there, but look, fine line between what I would call a decent downpour or decent a bit of rain over the next 7 days and some very dry areas. So it's what I call hit and miss. And I like to use that term because it really does explain it. But the tropical part of Australia, the very northern part, we are seeing some decent rainfall totals coming through and a bit more widespread than it's been in previous weeks and months. That's all from me for today. Good to be back. I'll see you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next Australia Only update.